Good morning. Welcome to Market Monday for July 8th, 2024. Well, this just happened. JP Morgan's chief market strategist gone after an utterly wrong few years. 19 years at JP Morgan. Do you think this guy had virtually unlimited resources at his disposal? That's the tricky thing about predicting an unknown future.
And remember this guy? Morgan Stanley's top U.S. equity strategist, Mike Wilson, out in February of this year after being utterly wrong for the past few years. Think this guy didn't have virtually unlimited resources? That's the tricky thing about predicting an unknown future, is that you can't do it. The quicker we all come to terms with that, the better investors will be.
So what's an investor to do then? Just throw up our hands and hope for the best? Well, not so fast. We've been talking a lot about this over the past few weeks, where only a few stocks are driving most of the gains in the indexes, like the S&P 500 stock market. Remember, first, it was Nvidia responsible for 35% of the gains so far this year. Then it was the top 5 or 6 stocks accounting for 60% of the gains. The $10 word for that is concentration. When just a few stocks are responsible for most of the index movement, that index is concentrated.
We can clearly see here, 2024 is shaping up to be one of the most concentrated years on record. Still a lot of the year left, but so far, and right now, the S&P 500 is clearly very concentrated. But do you see what's right beneath 2024? That's right, last year was also a very concentrated year. Keep in mind, this study is only for positive return years, so we won't see 2022 in here. But what do we see? Here's 2021 and 2020. So 24, 23, 21, and 2020, concentrated markets indeed.
But is that all a bad thing? The knee-jerk reaction and a potential risk that we should be aware of is that we all see years at the end of the tech bubble, 98 here, 1999 right here, and automatically link the two. This is a potential risk we don't want to diminish or ignore. One important nuance we would mention here is that these top companies are more like 10 large companies in one nowadays.
But let's go a step further. Here we're looking at earnings for that same index, the S&P 500. These are calendar year earnings starting in 2014 here, with 2024 and 2025 estimates in gray over here. Sure, estimates can and do get revised, so take it with a grain of salt. But fast, what's the first thing you see? A general trend higher over time? Should we expect it to be a straight line? Of course not. But over time, generally speaking, earnings rise, and that's what powers the stock market over long periods of time.
Let's go one step further, getting back to what else can we do as investors. Over the past few weeks, we've also been talking a lot about diversification within stocks, meaning do we just own the S&P 500, or do we also own some smaller companies, mid-sized companies, and maybe even some companies headquartered in those other parts of the world? To be fair, these haven't performed as well as the headline S&P 500 for quite a while now. That begs the question, why own these other parts of the stock market? Why diversify within stocks in the first place?
What Chad's talking about is this. Here we're looking at the S&P 500 in blue, the same market we talk about weekly here, the one that's currently quite concentrated. In white, imagine you took all 500 stocks in the S&P 500 and gave them all the same weight. In other words, we completely removed the concentration. That's the white. And guess what? Since the bottom of the global financial crisis, March 9th, 2009, the blue line, regular S&P 500, just surpassed the equal weight, no concentration S&P 500 for the first time.
Unfortunately, we're not going to always be in a strong bull market in the S&P 500. So when that ends, will you wish that you had diversification within stocks? Have a great week.